All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Selfless Little Gaming here. We're going to be doing our breakdown of the college football playoffs, kind of some predictions of what we think could happen. We're also going to be looking at the NFL playoff picture right now of currently where teams are ranked at, like who's on the bubble, who's got pretty much a good line to get that first round bye. I'm Selfless_Gaming. You can find me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. And this is my partner here, Little Jacob.
Yo, what's up, y'all? Little Jacob. That's little as a 3 instead of an E. You can also find me on TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and I have a Facebook page as well. You can reach me on those socials.
Yeah, I don't really think there's going to be much of a change with that stuff going on from the performances of last week's games. Teams definitely had a bad week across the board, but yeah. I think with the fact that how everybody played, I don't really see. The only thing I guess I could potentially see is with how bad Georgia's offense was and the fact that they only put up 16 points. I don't think it would happen, but Ohio State has been averaging 42 to 44 points a game, and they still hit 42 points, and Michigan underperformed and barely scored 19. So I don't know. I guess the committee could be well, Ohio State's been consistent all year, putting up 40 points. They did it again, even though they played bad. Let's move them up to 1. Georgia's been inconsistent with their gameplay. Yeah. But
yeah,
I kind of agree with you. It wouldn't surprise me either if nothing changed. So let's see here. So with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you off, okay, some statistics of the teams that are currently 1 through 6, but I'm going to read them in random order, all right?
Okay.
And I want you to tell me which team sounds like the best, or which ranking sounds like the best team, all right?
Gotcha.
So starting first, this team, points per game, is ranked 8th in the country with 39.5. Points against is 59, ranked 59th in the country at 25.5. Their overall passing rank is 25th. Their rushing rank is 19th. When I say average defense, this is a breakdown of basically the last 5 defenses they faced, okay?
Okay.
So the average defense they faced ranks 50th in the country, and they have 5 ranked wins on the season. So that's the first team. Second team, points per game, ranked 3rd in the country at 42.9. Points against is 65th, 26.3. Passing rank is 4th. Rushing rank is 47th. They have 1 ranked win, and their average defense faced is 68th in the country. Okay. Next, we have this team. Points for is ranked 9th in the country at 39.4. Points against is 2nd in the country at 11.7. Passing rank is 100th. Rushing is 4th. Average defense faced is 56. They have 1 ranked win. Next, you got points for. They are 2nd in the country at 46.5. Points against, they're ranked 10th at 16.9. Passing rank, 17th. Rushing, 20th. Average defense is 52. And they have 2 ranked wins on the season. Next team, points for is 11th at 38.4. Points against is 1st, 11.1. Passing rank, 13th. Rushing, 28th. Average defense faced, 58th. And then they have 2 ranked wins. And last one here is points for, ranked 33rd, averaging 33.4. Points against is 106th, which is giving up 28 a game. Passing rank is 50th, rushing rank 34. They have 2 ranked wins. So I know that's a lot of information. But out of everything I read, which one do you think stood out the most to you?
Stood out the most.
Because there's one that jumped right off the board to me as soon as I saw ranked wins.
I mean, the ranked wins probably what stands out the most to me for sure. Because I
So
think those are important.
yeah, so everybody else, okay, out of the top 6 right now,
Mm-hmm.
they have, and this is the way it reads, okay.
Yeah.
Georgia has 2 ranked wins. Ohio State has 2 ranked wins. Michigan has 1. TCU has 5 ranked wins in the top 25.
And
TCU, bro. And when I saw that, I was just like, holy crap, dude. Like, the Big 12 gets written off a lot every year because in the past it's always been like just Oklahoma destroying everybody. But they, like, I don't know, after I saw that and I started going back and looking at it, like, they have been a lot more competitive this year across the board with a lot of their teams than they have in previous years. So the fact that TCU has 5 ranked wins against top 25 opponents, I think their only top 10 ranked win was Oklahoma State. They were 8th when they beat them.
Mm-hmm.
And out of that whole entire breakdown, like, the reason I did this is because Georgia has the pretty much the number 1 ranked defense in the country. They give up 11.1 points per game. Okay. Michigan is right behind them at second. They give up 11.7 points per game. But when I did this breakdown, the reason I included like the average defense over the last 5 games is because Georgia, on average, like the defense they play is ranked like 60th in the country. So to me, when I saw that and I did that breakdown of it, it's like, okay, this team is number 1 in the country. They're ranked outside the top 10 for offense. Their passing rank is 13th, rushing is 28th. Pretty good. Okay, pretty much top 25 in both categories. But the fact that you're facing, like, on average, a top-ranked 60th team when it comes to their defense, and you're outside the top 10 for scoring, that's a concern to me. And especially with the teams they've played and how bad the SEC East has been this year, it's really been a thing for me of, like, Georgia's offense and their play has been extremely inconsistent. And what I mean by that is, let me pull them up real quick. So right now, Georgia at the beginning of the year played Oregon and they beat them 49-3. That game was an absolute throttle. But then they go and they play a team like Kent State, who's not even a Power 5 team, and they barely beat them 39-22. Then they play Missouri and they barely beat them 26-22. Then they beat a terrible Auburn team, really bad. They beat a Vanderbilt team that has not won an SEC game in 26 games. Then they beat Florida, which actually they struggled with Florida for 3 quarters. And they played Tennessee, number 1 ranked team in the country, which, as we've seen now, is not very good. That was kind of like a inflated thing. But then they beat Mississippi State, and then they go and play a terrible Kentucky team, and they beat them 16-6. So, like, they just kind of seem all over the place. But then, like, looking at Ohio State, ranked 2nd in the country, they have 2 ranked wins. Average defense they have played is 52, like ranked 52nd in the country. So 8 spots better than Georgia. But Georgia is averaging like rank 11th for scoring. Ohio State is ranked 2nd. And to me, if you're like a top tier team and you're facing on average defenses that are like middle of the pack when it comes to college football, you should be putting up a lot of points on these teams if you're a high ranked team. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like to me that makes more sense seeing those type of numbers. But then when I'm looking at like a team like Georgia, and then you got a team like who was it, like LSU? Like LSU right now is going to move up quite a bit. They're probably going to be number 5 in my opinion because of the SEC and the wins they have. But their offense is ranked 33rd for scoring. And their defense is ranked 106th for scoring. So to me, like the whole thing that I'm getting at with this is if anybody follows my channel, anybody knows me as a person, I am a diehard Ohio State fan, but I'm also like a realistic sports fan. And the committee is supposed to take into account strength of schedule, ranked wins, like points per game, defensive standings, all that stuff. And when I look at this, dude, like, how is TCU only at 4 with 5 ranked top 25 wins this year? That's the most of any team in the country. Like, I'm not going to necessarily say they should be number 1, but, like, how are they barely, like, getting in? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know your take on that, but I really don't like the committee.
Those are big games. And it's like even in the pros, we kind of talk about all the time. People always say if whenever you have a good record with an NFL team, who would you beat? What teams did you beat?
Yeah.
Oh, so what? You beat the Texans, big freaking deal. Now, if you say you beat someone like the Bills, it's a big deal, right? Because it's a good team. It's the same thing with college. I think it should be treated the exact same way. I mean, when you're playing the better teams on a regular basis, more consistently or more often, and you're winning, and you have more wins to show for it against those ranked teams, I mean, I think that should be taken in a much heavier consideration, for sure, because you're finding a way to win regardless of what you're ranked in the country as far as rushing and passing is going. Your defense definitely has to be something special, even if it doesn't always show up in the numbers, because you're making these victories happen on the defensive side of the ball too. So yeah, they definitely should consider that heavily with a team like TCU because of how well they've been able to perform, and they haven't lost a game on top of that.
Yeah, and like, granted, their margins of victory, some of them have not been very big margins of victory, but they have definitely done a good job of finding a way to win those games. And I want to play this narrative right here, okay? Because I said this to my fantasy football group a couple weeks ago. I said, what do you guys think of a college football playoff where you have 2 SEC schools and 2 Big Ten schools, and that makes up your college football playoff? And they were like, that will never happen. And I was just like, why couldn't it happen, though? I said, because the way it looks right now is Ohio State and Michigan are going to play each other. And 100%, that is what's happening this weekend. Those 2 teams are undefeated. Both those teams have played exceptionally well, like, throughout the year.
Yeah.
They've done what they needed to do to be number 2, number 3. In my opinion, personally, and I hate saying this, but Michigan and Ohio State, granted they're ranked 2 and 3, but whoever wins this game this weekend is going to be locked into the college football playoffs, because even if they lose their Big Ten championship, they're only going to have 1 loss. That other team is getting kicked from the college football playoffs, and I think that sucks.
Yeah.
Because in previous years, it doesn't matter if it's a SEC team. Both those teams get in. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the new college football rankings just came out. USC got bumped down from 5th to 6th. LSU got bumped up to 5th. Okay? So you're going to have the winner of Ohio State, Michigan this weekend. It's going to be undefeated. They're going to stay the same. Georgia's better win this weekend against Georgia Tech. So they're probably not going to change. But LSU and Georgia are playing each other for the SEC championship. If by chance LSU beats Georgia, that would actually give Georgia 1 loss. LSU would be an SEC champion with 2 losses. And then the question comes down to, how much do you value TCU if they go undefeated and win the Big 12? I think if TCU loses, I think they're out of the playoffs.
Yeah.
So it's like, if they lose, do you then give way to USC, who could be the Pac-12 champion? Or do you now go Ohio State, Georgia, maybe a Michigan with 1 loss, and then an LSU with 2 losses but the championship? That's if TCU and USC lose. Like, I think that could actually potentially happen. But some people are like, what if TCU wins out and LSU beats Georgia in the SEC? Do you keep TCU in or do you put LSU in? And me personally, if that happens and LSU gets in the playoffs with 2 losses and TCU went undefeated and is a conference champion, the whole entire system is rigged.
Yeah.
It's 1,000% rigged for the SEC every year because my professional opinion of college football, they didn't go undefeated. They lost 2 games. Granted, their game was the first game they lost was beginning of the year by 1 point, which was a crazy game. Yeah. But then they got absolutely throttled by Tennessee, which we've seen when Tennessee played a top 4 team. They got throttled and manhandled, and then they got destroyed by a team that's not even ranked.
Yep.
So, like, to me, it's like that loss is now worse looking, the fact that you lost to them. But people, a lot of, like, analysts don't look at the Tennessee loss. They look at look at Ole Miss and look at Alabama. They won those 2 games back-to-back that week. Well, we've also seen, too, those teams aren't very good.
Yeah.
Like, they're not the traditional – Alabama's not the traditional Alabama team that they've been in the past this year. So I don't know, man. Like, what are your thoughts on that breakdown now? Like, do you think that's a possibility of 2 Big Ten teams, 2 SEC teams, or am I just crazy?
I mean, like you kind of said, I don't see why not. Like, I'm not against it. Like, it's kind of already, like you said, it's kind of already happening. Yeah, I'd totally be for it. That would actually be pretty entertaining, you know. And like you said, the way the teams are playing right now, it'd definitely be great to see. I really hope that TCU does make it far enough to be in that Final Four. Now, like, just looking at the top 4, like, let's say potentially those are the Final Four teams that get in, because like you're talking about the whole thing with Alabama and stuff. Like, I don't think it'd be fair if it go down that way. That would be really nuts to me. But you know, it's just the way that there's no way to really tell how it's gonna work with the committee and how they're gonna judge things and whatever. But if TCU did get with it to the Final Four, I would really like to see that, especially because, you know, they just be representing Texas and at least, you know, they're doing it, they're making school history really for themselves, and that's good to see, especially from a good organization like that and the program that they have out there. Even though I would like to see them there, I don't know that they'd actually be able to beat a team like Georgia or Ohio State. I think they'd put up a good game, a good fight, but I don't know if they'd have as much firepower enough in the end to beat one of those teams. But it would be nice to at least see them get to the Final Four. And I'd love it if they proved me wrong and got all the way to the championship game.
Well, see, and this happened to TCU before, where they've gone undefeated and they were actually like left out of the championship game. Yeah, I think it was before the playoffs started, when it was like the BCS era. But this happened to them before, where they like did everything they were supposed to do, but then they didn't get into the national championship like contest. So
I think I remember that.
If that happens to him again, bro, like, I'd be pretty heated. I'd be pretty mad.
Yeah. We shall see, though. At the end of the day, you can only kind of guess, but you never really know how these things are going to play out with this. This ranking system that they have.
Well, and that's my thing is, like, I get it the way it used to be in the BCS era. It was all computer analytics breakdown, where like basically this computer would spit out team strength of schedule, the points they scored, defenses, like how good their defenses were, average opponent, how much they beat them by, like all this algorithm and stuff that went into it. And to me, I always felt like you had the 2 best teams usually based off that system, but then it came down to discussion of like, yeah, the computer's saying this, but like if you actually watch this team play, they're not playing like a number 1 team in the country. They're not playing like a number 2 team in the country. Like they don't pass the eye test basically. And then we came up with this committee like format. In the first year of it, I thought it was like really good the way they broke it down, because Ohio State was on the outside looking in, and then when the committee released their final results, Ohio State got in 2014, and a lot of people were like shocked that Ohio State got in, and they were playing Alabama in the first round. And that was the very first year that we had the college football playoff committee. Ohio State won it. And it kind of gave this tone of like, yeah, dude, like anything can happen if you get the right teams in there. But then it's like now the rest of the time, it just seems like we've gone on this trend of it's back towards like ACC or SEC. Like everybody says the SEC is the best, so they should have 2 teams in there automatically. And it's like if you have that scenario to make that happen, the committee makes that happen, in my opinion. And I don't like it because I think people can easily be swayed. If that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. Like, I don't think they can put their personal opinions aside and actually break it down from a statistical standpoint and, you know, like evaluate things fairly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we're all human, you know? Like, it's hard to, like, root against your own conference or your own teams, but I don't know. I think by them expanding the playoffs for college football, it's actually going to help a lot. Because I think,
and not to mention it's fun for us because we get to watch more games and more. You have more scenarios and possibilities of things that can happen. You never know, and one of the smaller teams or lower ranked team could really come up and just win it out. You know, something exciting like that. It's possible.
Especially this year, like if they expanded it and say like the expansion was in this year.
Yeah.
Like if you take out Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, all right. You look at TCU, LSU, USC, Alabama, Clemson, Oregon, Tennessee. Those are your top 10. Those teams would end up playing each other. Any one of those teams right now could beat each other. Like, in my opinion, there's no, like, in any of those matchups, there's no preferred favorite. I think anybody that would play Tennessee out of that group, I would favor them because they lost Tooker, their quarterback, and stuff. Like, I would give the advantage to them. But, like, if Clemson's playing Oregon, like, I think that'd be a pretty good matchup. If USC was playing Alabama, I think that'd actually be a pretty good matchup. Like, so it definitely make things interesting for sure. All right, moving over to the NFL. This past weekend was a pretty wild weekend, honestly. My fantasy team, man, dude, we had a freaking shootout, brother. God, like I didn't look at it until like the late night game. I was upset because the Cowboys game was not on. I was really wanting to watch that game.
Yeah.
And I was actually surprised that was not the game of the week that was being televised and stuff. Because like for me, it was the Bengals Steelers. I kind of get it because it's like, yeah, it's kind of a rivalry and stuff, but I was actually genuinely pissed off that it was not the Vikings and Cowboys because I was like, dude, this is a big matchup, like in the NFC.
Yeah.
How about them Cowboys, bro? How about them freaking Cowboys?
That was a great game, and I said it to my friend. I was like, man, you know, we lost that game coming back. This is maybe Dak's like 3rd or 4th game coming back. It's like I think we might be able to have our best game.
He played exceptionally well too.
And but yeah, I didn't imagine that it was going to be anything like it was. I mean, they're pretty much hitting on all cylinders, on all phases of the football game. The run game, the way that they divided the carries between Zeke and Pollard, you know, it really opened up for more. And then just getting Pollard involved in the passing game, the way that Dak was able to, and he made those really big plays. I mean, it was just really on fire. Michael was on fire. The whole defense was playing great. I just hope that we can continue to just keep that model of consistency. And if they're able to do that on a team like the Vikings, the kind of firepower they have, and you know, a team that's 8-1 is 8-1 for a reason. You know, especially when you can beat a team like the Bills. I think Trayvon Diggs played great defense against Jefferson. I think he only had like 3 catches for 33 yards. And this is like another game where Trayvon Diggs goes against a high-profile receiver like Jefferson or Jamar Chase and the Bengals, and really helped like sustain and keep them at bay. Is pretty impressive because it shows that he's not just a 1-year player where he just had one good season. That's it. He's continuing his great play this year too. Even though he's not getting a whole lot of interceptions, he's playing a different kind of role as a cornerback. And he's not jumping the gun too much like he did, and which he did a lot last year. And he got lucky to get those interceptions he got a lot of the time. But he's just playing great, man. It's really awesome to see how some of the defensive players are developing under Dan Quinn. And I really hope they can keep it up, man, because if we can win this next game, we got teams that aren't as good that we should be able to beat, like the Texans and the Colts coming up. Then we'll end up having a rematch with the Eagles. Washington. There's a few games in there. I think the toughest games we'll have coming up after Thanksgiving really is going to be the Eagles and Tennessee. And other than that, I mean, we should be able to close out our year with the playoff spot waiting, and hopefully, maybe depending on how it goes with the Eagles too, and if we can beat them, maybe the NFC Championship, or if not, at least sitting with a good record at the end of the year, looking to get to the playoffs. So yeah, it was a crazy game, man. It was really big. I wish I was there.
Yeah. Dak definitely played his best game of the season, like going 22-25. Me personally, man, I think Pollard is definitely putting himself as the featured back now for the Cowboys. Him and Zeke both split carries. They had 15 and 15 each. He had 80 yards, averaging 5.3. Zeke had 42 yards, averaging 2.8. But Zeke had 2 touchdowns, which honestly, it would not surprise me if they used Pollard as the workhorse to basically spread the ball around the field and move it. And then when you get down there in that goal line situation, Zeke's down there, because he's definitely your bigger back for sure. Yeah. So that does not surprise me that he has 2 touchdowns down there from the goal line. But man, Pollard, I watched some highlights of the game and stuff from what I could see, and I think one of the best things that it really to me, I like the Cowboys, but I'm not a fan of the Cowboys. I wouldn't say I'm a diehard fan. The way the offensive play calling was done, I felt like this was the first game where you guys did a really good job of getting your athletes out into certain situations and creating matchups that favor you all. And what I mean by that is actually getting Pollard to come out of the backfield and run a wheel route. The linebacker then has to go with him. He's going to win that matchup. Whereas previously they just line them up in a slot, and it's okay, well now you can bring in a nickel package, and you can have a corner or another safety come in and cover that guy that can keep up with him. And I just thought that was really, really well done, because his receiving game was huge, man. He had 109 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns. Those 2 guys alone kept me within my fantasy game. But then the Monday night game, Kittle having 2 touchdowns, that ended up caused me to lose by 4 points. But still, if the Cowboys can keep that kind of production up, there's no reason that they can't go to the Super Bowl with the defense they have. There's no reason they can't make it to the Super Bowl with the defense they have. If they can keep that type of production up,
Yeah, especially when they're not making Dak having to throw 30, 35s a game.
Yeah.
They're not abandoning the run, and they're giving opportunities for Zeke. Zeke's become the back now because just of age, injury, and just the process of you advancing in your years in the NFL at running back. He's become the guy now that you get the short yard touchdowns, the tough third and twos, get you some first downs when you need that 3rd and 1, that good push. And for someone to fall forward and get you the yard that you need, that's what Zeke's there, and it's still good for. And Tony Pollard, he has a lot more explosiveness. He's a lot faster. He has that ability to hit home runs, whether it's on a run, a pitch play, a pass, because we've seen him do it. I think it's time to kind of reverse the roles. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really people don't understand. I think that when you talk, they say Tony Pollard should be the starter. And it's at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter who starts because it's still going to be a 2-back system. It's still going to be they're still going to get carries. Now you might see days where, and this will probably happen, and I believe it will, especially as we get further into the season and maybe the playoffs. Hopefully, right? That Tony Pollard might end up getting the ball, start getting a little bit more. Then you might see Zeke. You might see Zeke more in there for those short yard situations and pass blocking packages. But either way, like it doesn't matter who starts because they're both going to get the football and they're both going to get utilized. If they both can get utilized the way they did in that Vikings game, it doesn't matter who starts to the running back, you know. So yeah, they could go really far when they have a diverse range of play calling, and you're not expecting Dak to throw it 75 to 70% of the whole game, and you have to account for two running backs and not just one. So yeah, I agree. You know, if they can continue to play with that kind of effort and that kind of if they can be consistent with their performance with the kind of defense that we have to and how good the defense has been playing as well, especially in that game against a high powered offense that I would say because they do have really good players on that offense. um yeah, they can go really far even all the way to the Super Bowl playing at that level if they can continue to do that.
Yeah, I think too with how things are going, I don't know, man. Like the NFC could really kind of have like a big change, big swing in the standings right now because I feel like the AFC is pretty consistent. Honestly, like I don't really see too much of a shakeup in the AFC, but the NFC could definitely change a lot in seeding with how teams are performing right now. So
You know what's crazy? Dallas has actually doubled their sacks in a season. So last year, which is also a really good defensive year for us, 21 sacks and 19 giveaways, 19 takeaways, excuse me, through 10 games. This season, they have 42 sacks
that's crazy.
and 16 takeaways. That's 3 less takeaways in 10 games, but dude, 42 sacks out of that's just a crazy amount to think of when you think about just like that number is just ridiculous, you know, for a team to have 42 sacks in 10 games.
Yeah, but like with the addition of guys that you guys brought in on your defensive line, that actually frees up Micah Parsons that you guys can do more with him. You know, you can move him around more. Where last year he's pretty much up on the line and he really couldn't play like a true linebacker position. So you guys are definitely being more creative for sure on the defense side of the ball this year. There's one guy I want to talk about because I've picked him up. I had to sit my tight end 1 week, and I picked him up. He's 26 years old, so he's young. His name is Jawan Johnson, and he plays for the New Orleans Saints. Okay. If you guys need a tight end, I doubt a lot of people in your league are going to have him picked up. Go and snatch this guy. All right. Because the reason I bring it up is he doesn't have like the craziest receiving yards, but he is extremely reliable when it comes to receptions. His past game, he had, or in the month of November so far, he has had 10 receptions on 13 targets. He's averaging 13 yards a catch. And over his last couple of games, he went 3 receptions, 4 targets, 47 yards, 5 of 7, 44 yards, 2 of 2, 42 yards, with a touchdown. Then against the Raiders, he went 2 of 4 for 14 yards, no touchdown. But then against Arizona, he went 5 of 5, 32 yards, 2 touchdowns. The dude is an end zone threat. I don't believe he's been playing all year. I want to look real quick. Pretty sure. Actually, yeah, he has played all year. I'm going to be honest, guys. Like, this dude he's really good. Like, if you are in a PPR format, I would definitely snag this guy up. Because over the past 3 games for me, let me pull his stats up here real quick. He's gotten 13.7 points, 15 points, 12 points. Then he had a 3-point game, which was that Raiders game. 22 points, 18 points. Like, guy's pretty good. And I think he's proven himself, especially within an offense. Right now, it's kind of plagued with injuries. Like, Michael Thomas is out for the year for them. He's clearly a big end zone threat. And I just saw the Saints like up here at the top, and I wanted to talk about them real quick because that's a player that if you guys really need a tight end right now, definitely go snag him up. He's pretty good. Let's let's see here. All right, so right now, if we look at our playoff standings for the NFL, okay, currently in the AFC, you got Kansas City at the 1 seed. The Dolphins are the 2 seed, which is surprising to me. Tennessee is 3. Ravens are 4. Bills are 5. New England is 6. Cincinnati 7. New York 8. Chargers 9. Colts 10. Jacksonville 11th. Then after that, it didn't really matter. But let's see. The Bengals, I'm pretty sure they're like in the playoff hunt right now, like in that hunt position. Wins tiebreak over. They win the tiebreaker over the New York Jets because they beat them in head-to-head. New England Patriots win the tiebreaker over Cincinnati on win percentage in conference games. Division tiebreak was initially used to eliminate New York Jets. New England wins the break over New York Jets based on head-to-head win percentage. So that's why New England Patriots are ahead of the Bengals, basically. But man.
Wow, the Chargers are actually in the position that we didn't think they would be in, which is not even in the playoff scope right now. They're on the bubble.
Yeah, they're on the bubble. They're 5-5. They're 2-2 in the division.
The way this is playing out, it's like the Chiefs didn't end up being in the kind of division that we thought they were going to be in. Like they're clearly front runners of the AFC again.
And
and the Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos never really were a threat.
But that division, like if you think about that, the Chargers losing Joey Bosa, I think that's actually kind of hurt them where he's been out because they have not been the same with him gone. And then I honestly think that AFC West division, it might be a year out if you think about it because like the Raiders, we thought they were going to have a big impact. They're not. Like we kind of talked about earlier that their coach might actually be like putting up offensive production in the first half with Devontae Adams for his contract. And then after that, he's like, all right, halftime boys, playbook, tank. And they just tank in the second half because they've been doing it like all season. So like, I don't know, that division might be a year away because like Russell Wilson's new to that division and everything. He's new to that team. I think they got to get some different weapons for him. But yeah, like we thought that was going to be the toughest division in football this year, and it's not been at all. So, how about Melvin Gordon getting released? Did you see that?
Yeah, that's pretty surprising. I wonder why that is. I wonder if it's
from what I read, man, it was
more deeper than up front.
No, from what I read, they were he basically fumbled at the end of the game, and that fumble is what like cost them to lose the game to the Raiders, I think. And after that, he got let go. And from a lot of things I saw people tweeting about, from like analysts and just like sports fans, basically his contract and the money, he had somebody like he was affordable for somebody to pick up. But they basically let him go and were eating the money this year because they can't afford to have his like continued issues with fumbling the football. So I guess it was pretty bad stuff for him this year. But moving down to the NFC, we got Philadelphia 9-1, Minnesota 8-2, San Francisco, who, man, I'm not gonna lie, they are looking good right now with the acquirement Christian McCaffrey. You got Tampa Bay at 4 at 5-5. Dallas is 5th, 7-3. New York Giants 7-3 at 6. Seattle 6-4. Washington 6-5. Atlanta 5-6. Detroit 4-6. And then after that, doesn't really matter. Which I understand the whole divisional thing, but like this is what pisses me off with the NFL. Is you literally have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have the greatest quarterback to ever play the game on their team. They're sitting at 5-5, and they're the 4 seed. You know, because it's their division sucks, and they're the best team in that division. And divisional like winners get that advantage in playoffs. So, like, right now, you could honestly have, I don't even know how it would work, honestly, like, I guess it'd be Dallas and New York for the wild card spot, playing the wild card game. And then
would be Dallas and New York.
Like the way it sits right now, 5 and 6.
Oh yeah, the way it is right now. Okay.
So then you'd have Philly. They would be playing Tampa. Well, no, Philly would get to bye. So wait, it actually might be. How many teams are in the playoffs? How many teams are in this one?
Teams get the if it started right now,
Philly's got the
Eagles
bye.
And the Chiefs get bye week.
Yeah, how many teams are in the playoffs though? Like
16.
16 teams. So really, it would be Seattle,
the Bucks, and the Cowboys, and the Giants.
So it'd be Seattle facing Washington then for like the wild card.
Yeah.
And then you'd have Minnesota facing the Giants. You'd have San Francisco facing the Cowboys.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild.
I like to think that we've cleaned up our penalties quite a bit this year. Maybe we played the San Francisco 49ers, it wouldn't be the same result, you know?
I don't know, man. Like looking at the breakdown of things, the NFC, I feel like, and the reason that's why I said like I think the NFC has the most shakeup potential because right now San Francisco is 6-4, but their last few games they have really come on with Christian McCaffrey being a part of that offense now. They're a pretty dangerous team.
That's true.
The Eagles, and I'm just gonna say this, every year, I think that's what's gonna happen. You're gonna have teams that have athletic quarterbacks that have like good personnel around them. They're gonna start off hot in the season, and they're gonna make really big runs in the season early on. But then once you get a team that figures them out and knows how to defend them, their game plan is pretty much over. Because the NFL is a very big copycat league. And what I mean by that is like whatever one team shows they can do and it works, the other team just models that format when it comes to defenses.
Kyler Murray.
And the fact that the Eagles lost that game, the Indianapolis Colts are not very good, and they barely beat them. So, and the Colts basically copied the format of what the Commanders did. They pretty much went out there and like implemented the same thing, and they ended up beating the Colts 17-16, but they struggled a lot during that game. So, and like it was the same thing a couple years ago with the Ravens when Lamar Jackson was popping off. The Ravens were playing awesome. They were doing really well and all this stuff, and then teams started to figure them out. Come playoffs, they faced the Patriots. Patriots basically go in and took what other teams were doing, executed it. Lamar Jackson's amazing season was over. You know, he got shut down that game. Same thing with Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. They were on a roll last year. They were playing exceptionally well, went I think 7-0, and then a team finally figured them out and beat them. And then after that, every team that faced the Cardinals basically implemented that same strategy, and they didn't win many more games the rest of the year. They like completely fell off. So I think you're going to see that, which is funny to me, like when you say that stuff, because with Kansas City, teams do that, but they still lose. Like they find a way to win, man. And it's crazy how good they are. So here's a thing I got for you. Okay. I was thinking about this the other day, and I saw something on YouTube on it. Okay, like a little YouTube short. Aaron Rodgers, our good old buddy, Aaron Rodgers. Okay. What do you think about this deal? Because I was thinking about like what teams could really use a quarterback right now to win, but could afford to do it. All right. The Seahawks right now have Geno Smith, who they're paying very little money for. They have drafted off like 2 offensive tackles who are really good, so you really don't have to pay them for the next 3 years because they're in that automatic like league contract of drafts for rookies. I think it's Kenneth Walker, the running back. He was drafted, so he's in that league rookie contract.
Mm-hmm.
The Seattle Seahawks got 2 first-round picks for the next 2 years, 2 second-round picks for the next 2 years, 2 third-round picks for the next 2 years for the Russell Wilson deal. And what does Green Bay need? Green Bay needs players.
Yeah.
So the Seahawks could literally do, hey, for the next year, we'll give you a 1, a 2, and a 3. We'll take Rodgers. We'll maybe trade you a player or 2, and we'll take like whatever's left over of the money. Seahawks got a top-tier quarterback now that has great receivers around him on the team with Lockett and Metcalf, a solid running back, a good offensive line, and Green Bay is getting what they need in draft picks because they need draft picks because they literally don't have a lot of talent. Would you take that deal as Green Bay, like management, basically?
If I was running things in Green Bay, if I had those kind of decisions, yes, they definitely need to fill some holes and they need players, like you said. They need players. You know, with Aaron Rodgers or none, like they're not going to get much better from where they're at today. If they don't get some better personnel on that team.
Well, and he gets out of Green Bay, which is what he's ultimately wanted.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean they're 4-7. You know, I think that it'd be worth it for Aaron Rodgers to get out of Green Bay, maybe go somewhere where there's a better, more experienced, and ready for a quarterback like him team to have around him.
Yeah.
And in the process, the Packers get some bang for their buck and get players that they need to move forward and be successful. If it's not with Jordan Love, then with someone else, you know?
Yeah. Because I think with some of the guys that are coming out of the draft, or like coming out into the draft, you can essentially draft a quarterback if you needed to. You could definitely trade for a quarterback. Like you could suffer for like a year or 2. Like go get an Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton's still playing good, man. He's been playing for New Orleans this year, and he's showing right now like the guy can still play. He can still manage the game. He's not gonna, go out and be a Tom Brady or anything like that, but like the guy can manage the game and get you some wins. So I don't know. I just heard that take and I was like, dude, that's actually like a really good deal. That's a solid deal for both parties and stuff. So but who do you think right now? Who do you think's winning the Super Bowl based off what you're seeing?
Man, there's some really good gameplay going right now. I mean, just based off of like this past week or just all together?
Just where we're at in the season right now, because I kind of got a prediction. But and granted, a lot of stuff can change. Like one injury to one of these teams, it completely changes their whole performance for the rest of the year. But who do you think? Who's your Super Bowl prediction team right now? Because we're in a week. What week are we in? This is week 12 we're coming up on?
Yeah.
So, week 12. Who are your Super Bowl teams? What do you think?
Super Bowl teams. We got some really good teams. I think on both sides of the football, for sure. Let's see. That's a tough one, man. I mean, obviously, I honestly feel like, because, I mean, if you look at the top 4, right, we'll say top 6, just real quick, AFC. You got the Chiefs, the Dolphins, the Titans, Ravens, Bills. That, and then you got the Patriots, where it kind of cheating. Well, I really, we'll say just the top 5, because the Patriots aren't really. I mean, Cincinnati is just kind of like hovering there. I mean, if Cincinnati comes up and wins like another 3 or 4 games in a row, you might consider them to be in that front runner. But for what's there now, I would say out of these few teams, I don't know, man. I feel like the Chiefs could really could really get back to the Super Bowl again. And I really feel like if they do have a shot at beating Buffalo, dude, and it's just so crazy because, we thought that when Mahomes lost Tyreek Hill, and not just us, but in general, the media, like, the major sports outlets, everyone was talking about how's Mahomes gonna do without Tyreek Hill being gone. How's this gonna affect him?
He's actually
Are his
done better.
and even I was like, in my head, yeah, they got Juju Schuster, they got that dude Scanling, and yeah, those guys are fast and they're pretty good, but none of them are Tyreek Hill fast. And granted, Tyreek Hill isn't in Miami, and look at them, they're at 7-3, and he's just killing it over there. He's killing it all season, right? Um, it's just so crazy because it's like that never phased Patrick Mahomes for a single game. The Chiefs have yet to look like they really need Tyreek Hill for a single game. They have still been the most offensively dangerous team, the most diverse team. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is still out there slinging it. Getting the job done and winning the games on the road and at home. They've only lost one game on each. They're on a 4-game win streak.
Yeah,
they are really getting after it, I think, on a higher level than any of the teams below them, and even the Bills at this point. And the defense is playing really good too. They've won important divisional games. They've won they've won the big games that they needed to win so far in the season. Kind of like we were talking about college football. They've won important games so far this season. So I really do look and see that the Kansas City Chiefs continue to play where they're going to be in the Super Bowl. I don't see that the Bills will be able to beat them or any other team they might have to face. It'd be nice to see them get a good matchup against Miami and Tyreek Hill, no receiver. But yeah, I feel like the Chiefs would definitely be that team to climb back there, for sure.
I'm kind of there with you too. I think the Chiefs right now, especially with how their defense is playing, like it's definitely improved from last year. And honestly, man, like I think Mahomes is playing better this year than he is last year.
Yeah, for sure.
I right now I'm putting them in the Super Bowl. Like I don't really see anybody else at the AFC that is going to make it happen. What about NFC wise?
I'll be dead honest with you, man. I'm taking a look right now at this at just the standings for the NFC, and just one thing that sticks out to me, okay, when I look at points allowed or points against, okay, the top 3 teams that you have for that points against, it's going to be Philadelphia's number 3 with 183. You got San Francisco at 173 for the second because they're pretty good defensively. Then you got Dallas Cowboys at only 167 points allowed all season in 10 games. Woo! I feel like with the way the defense is playing, how they continue to disrupt both the pass and the run game, force turnovers, and just completely blowing up the pass protection and getting sack after sack. I mean, I don't think that there's maybe one game, no, not even a game I think has gone by yet where they haven't got a sack. You know what I mean? I think if that continues, and the way that Dallas has the offense rolling right now, especially the firepower they displayed against the Vikings, which the Vikings just too recently gave up 37 points, 38 points to Dallas. So they weren't doing too bad either in that category. They would have probably been the fourth best defense in the NFC. I think if we can stay consistent offensively, the ball, I definitely can see the Dallas Cowboys get into the NFC Championship game and then getting past that too. If they can continue to play at the level that they're playing now with that defense, if we keep our guys healthy, if what all the media is talking about, and somehow, I think Odell Beckham is supposed to be expected to be at the Thanksgiving game. If he does end up signing, and it works out the way that we would like to, and he becomes a part of this offense with Dallas that's starting to fire off, and they're really finding a new way to have a run identity with Tony Pollard, and involve him in the passing game in ways that he's more successful at. I could definitely see the Cowboys being on the top of that list, regardless of how it ends or if they win the division or not. I can definitely see the Dallas Cowboys getting past the teams in the NFC East, even if it's the Eagles, for sure. Things are looking really promising at this time of year, and it's like, we lost Dak at the beginning of the year. He came back. We've still been pretty successful since then. And I think it's going to continue that way. And I think they have a better understanding of how they need to play football together. And I'm hoping that the coaches do too. And I think I was talking about earlier too. The penalties have been reduced, so that's
Yeah.
that's also a huge thing too. That the penalties have been reduced. When I'm looking at net points, I will say this, and I know it's because of that big game we just had, but this is also a big part of it too. The net points are now 84, are the highest in the NFC right now that the Dallas has of total net points. Right, that's points against versus uh points scored or whatever. So yeah, I mean, if they can keep this trend up, they're gonna definitely be up there in the end. And I think you could definitely maybe see a Dallas Cowboys Chiefs Super Bowl, which would be amazing. Especially considering that they had a good matchup the last time they played each other in Kansas City.
Me personally, I think there's two teams that definitely stand out to me right now in the NFC. And the beautiful thing about sports is like where the season starts, and then like as the season progresses, you can have teams that are 100% completely different teams from where they started the season and where they end the season. And like a good example I'm going to give you right now is the Chicago Bears. Like, for example, where they started the season, the lack of their offensive production and how much they were struggling. And then now they like kind of changed things up with Justin Fields. They brought in Chase Claypool, started bringing some like stuff for him and are trying to surround him with better players. They're trying to change their offense around to where he can be basically more athletic. They went from averaging like 12 to 20 points to now they're averaging like in the 30s. You know, like they're still losing games because their defense isn't good. They gave up a lot off their defense last year to this year. But like they were starting to find their identity as a team, and offensively they're becoming way better. So like that's the beautiful thing about football and just sports in general is like you see a team, and then as that team grows and matures and like they really start to find their identity and their stride throughout the season, some of those teams, man, they just hit it at the right point and they just take off. And I think San Francisco is at that point. I think their offensive unit that they have, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is actually starting to feel really comfortable in that offense, especially with the addition, like I've said before, with Christian McCaffrey. He is a very athletic back that you can get the ball to out of the backfield. He's a great runner. But I think they are a dangerous team because their defense is very good. And I think the Cowboys, like you talked about, if they continue to play the way they've been playing and continue to build off of each game, there's no doubt in my mind that one of those two teams could get to the Super Bowl. Like I could see either one of those teams in the Super Bowl, honestly, because of their defense. Their defense is extremely consistent. And that's like a big thing for me in the NFL is like when you have a really strong defense that you can lean on, that helps the offense so much more. And if the Cowboys bring in Odell Beckham, it's obviously going to take them a little bit of time to, get accustomed to what the Cowboys want to do with them. He's also probably going to, I know he's in shape and stuff, but like he's not game shape. And you got that mental part of it too with him because he's had multiple injuries now with his knee and stuff. It's probably going to take him a little bit, couple games, couple hits to make sure like he's actually all right.
Yeah, and like and for those that are listening, you'll hear coaches and the athletes and the pros and all those guys talk all the time. There's two different kinds of shape. There's game time shape and there's just being in shape. You can do all the treadmill runs you want and all the workouts and the drills and not, but it's a whole different kind of stamina endurance you need to actually go out there and play the game. So
when you got people beating on you and stuff,
weeks to kind of get them rolling. He's coming in a little later this year than he did with the Rams last year.
Yeah, but that's honestly, I think, to be expected because
of the injury.
You gotta think his injury was in the Super Bowl, so that's pretty much the start of this year, like this actual calendar year. And usually with ACL stuff, you're looking at minimum 6 months. And he's had multiple injuries now with his leg, so I don't know. I think teams have been more. I think you're kind of getting to that point with him as a player. He's getting up there in age. He's had multiple injuries now. And the new format of the NFL is when teams are bad, they either make deals to get rid of players to get more draft picks, or they just play for the draft.
Yeah.
They don't try to go out and acquire, a player like Odell Beckham to come in and be on their roster for next year and try to get him cheap because they suck this year. Usually, if you got teams that are like the Rams last year, when they went out and got Von Miller and they made all those moves and then they brought in Odell Beckham, that was very much a, hey, this is a boom or bust moment. Like, we're playing for the Super Bowl, we're winning the Super Bowl, we're going broke this year, and they did it. And then now you see the outcome of that. He's gone with his injury. They gave Aaron Donald a big contract, gave him a bunch of money. They started trading off players and moving people around, and they suck this year. They got rid of some offensive linemen. I can't remember the one offensive lineman's name, but he finally retired from the NFL. He was with the Bengals for a long time and stuff as their left tackle. Like, he finally retired, and they're just not good this year. Like, that group's just not good. Now they have Cooper Kupp, who's out. He's on RI. So it's kind of like, okay, like, you might as well just chalk this year up and play for the draft.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with, though, man. I think, like, Chiefs are definitely in it for sure right now.
This just seems like, and it's crazy to say this, and especially with the guy, and this is no way a knock on Tyreek Hill at all. But it's kind of like, even with Tyreek Hill being on the team in the past, this kind of feels like this is the best Chiefs team that they've ever had.
That's what, honestly, I think that way too. Well, and like, to me, I don't know what it is, because you can do a lot with Tyreek Hill.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I feel like now you have such a more balanced team with the addition of Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdez. You got Travis Kelce, best like tight end / wide receiver in the league, in my opinion.
Yep.
Like, guys getting 100 yards a game every game. You got Jerick McKinnon. I think it's Jerick is his first name. He's a solid running back. That's a good 3-down back.
Yeah.
You got Malcolm Hardman. Like, their wide receivers, man, are so unique that they can be a deep threat, but they can also be very much like intermediate to over the middle type threat guys as well. Like, they can kind of do it all. The only thing they can't do is they're just not those guys that you're going to throw a quick screen to, like, straight down the line of scrimmage, and they're going to bust it for 60 yards. They're not those guys. But they are those guys that will get you 10 to 15 to 20 to 30 yards here and there and just keep moving the ball down the field. And I think that is what makes them more dangerous, personally.
I agree.
So, I don't know.
I'm excited to see how the Dolphins fare in the postseason with Tua and Tyreek and all them, because I think since the beginning of the year, I really like the way the Dolphins roster is looking. They came out and, aside from some scary injuries for Tua, hopefully it's nothing that affects them going down the road. They're still an exciting team to watch, They got tough. I'm definitely gonna try to catch their game this weekend because it's always fun watching the Dolphins and what that offense does, and I'm very curious to see them in the playoffs and see how they perform and how far they can go, and if they can actually go there and be one of those teams that really does challenge a Kansas City or really does challenge a Bills football team. That'd be an exciting matchup that we haven't seen or got to see in a real long time.
You're going to see, in my opinion, how good the Dolphins are here in the next couple weeks. Because, like, this week they got the Texans. That's a win. Texans are playing for that number 1 spot in the draft. But then they got the 49ers. They got the Chargers. They got the Bills. Then they got Green Bay, Patriots, Jets to finish out their season. Like, that 3-week stretch right there, you're going against some pretty good defenses and some good offenses. You're going to get a really good taste and feel for, like, how good the Dolphins are. So,
yeah,
we know their offense can score points, but it's To me, it's more of, can their defense actually like get them possessions back? Can they get some stops? Type deal.
Yeah, you can't always just bomb it to Tyreek out there somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's gonna wrap it up for us. We hope you all are doing well in your fantasy leagues. Definitely pick up Juwan Johnson if he's available. If you need like an extra tight end or you need somebody to replace, dude's hot right now. He's definitely a good end zone threat. And Andy Dalton loves him. He loves getting him the ball. So it's definitely something to like continue to look into if you're needing players. Anybody that listens, anybody that watches, be sure to get down on your knees, look up to the sky, pray to the Ohio State Buckeye gods. They pull that out this weekend. I think it's going to be a good game. I genuinely think it's going to be a good game. Part of me is nervous because I don't know what Blake Corum's status is. He's the running back for Michigan. That was the guy that like ran all over us last year. He hurt his knee last week.
Ooh.
And he did not return to the game when he hurt his knee. And they're not really like commenting on his status at all. So they're trying to keep it hush hush. But it was very evident that when he left the game, that offense was completely different.
Yeah.
They were not the same. If he's not 100% or he doesn't play, I definitely feel like the Buckeyes are going to have the upper hand.
Yeah.
And stuff. But actually, before we break here real quick.
What about matchups and advantages, man? You got to take them when you can get them.
I want to talk about that matchup real quick because I don't think people understand how impactful that matchup is and how good these teams are. Currently, right now, Ohio State ranks 17th in the country for passing, 20th in the country for rushing. They are the second ranked offense in the country for points for, and their defense is top 10 for points against. Okay. Michigan, right now, they are currently passing is ranked 100th, rushing is ranked 4th in the country. Points for, they're ranked 9th, so they're in the top 10, and points against, they're ranked 2nd. So you have the second offense in the country for points for, facing the number 2 defense in the country. And one of the biggest rivalries, not one of the biggest, it is the biggest rivalry in college football. It's been the longest rivalry in college football. It's one of the biggest ones every year. And to be honest, this takes me back to 2005, 2006, when Ohio State and Michigan played at the end of the year, and it was a 1 versus 2. Like that was the rankings for that game. It was a 1 versus 2, and Ohio State won, and that game was bonkers. I want to say it was like 42-35. Like it was just crazy back and forth scoring. Is most stressful I've ever been watching a game. But this is just like as big because now you have the outcome of this game determines a playoff spot, and it's a 2 versus 3 matchup in the country. So I think it'll be good. It'll definitely be heated. But yeah, go Bucks. That's all I'm gonna say. We appreciate y'all tuning in. Sorry about the YouTube stuff. I'll definitely get that sorted, fixed out. I don't know why my microphone was like all switched up.
Yeah.
But we'll definitely have it fixed for next time and everything. When you had it up on did you have it up on your computer or your phone?
Yeah, I did.
Did it seem laggy at all, or was it like smooth?
No, I mean the picture from what I saw looked good.
Look good. Okay, so I'm trying to get some feedback from some people that did tune in and see it. But we appreciate you. I'm Selfless_Gaming once again. I will be like editing this one, and I'll put the video up on YouTube. But you can find me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and yeah, all that stuff. And little Jacob, close us out, brother.
Sir, this is Little Jacob, Little with the 3 instead of an E. You can also find me on TikTok, Twitch, Twitter. I do have a Facebook page as well. If you'd like to reach me on those socials, I will be available.
And don't forget, guys, no matter what in life, we all know, like, you guys get feeling down. Everybody does. Just remember, no matter what, you guys are always one in a melon. Okay? We love you. We hope you guys have a good Thanksgiving holiday, those that celebrate it. If you're traveling, be safe. Make sure you get to spend plenty of time with your family, friends, all that. And we will see you in the next one. Peace. All right, let me stop this.
Yeah.